Just a few weeks ago, Sergio Perez was on the verge of losing his seat mid-season. After a string of disappointing performances, it looked as if his days were numbered. But only one thing stopped the team from pulling the trigger: Max Verstappen. Sergio Perez's future with Red Bull has been under a microscope this season, particularly after a series of disappointing results. Despite a strong start with 4 podium finishes in the first 5 races, Perez hasn't won a single race this year. His performance has been slipping, and he's now sitting in 7th place in the F1 drivers' standings with 131 points, less than half of his teammate, who's leading the championship with 277 points. This has become a bit of a pattern for the Mexican driver, with his performances taking a slump mid-season for the past couple of years, despite his teammates' continued dominance on the track. But things aren't as easy for Red Bull this season as before. The competition is getting tighter, and the team can't have one driver doing all of the heavy lifting for the constructors. The situation took a turn for the worse for Checo right before the summer break at Spa, where he had the perfect opportunity to make a statement. Starting second on the grid, with Verstappen all the way back in 11th, Perez seemed to have the upper hand. But instead of capitalizing on his starting position, he ended up finishing behind Verstappen, purely based on performance, which only added to the scrutiny around him. Following another disappointing outcome, Red Bull's management, Christian Horner and Helmut Marko, held a critical meeting in London to discuss Perez's future with the team. There was a lot of speculation that Perez might be on his way out, but after some intense discussions, they ultimately decided to keep him in the seat for the remainder of the season. While it's clear that Perez hasn't been performing at a level that would make Verstappen feel threatened, F1 journalist Brandon Sutton offered some insight on the Total Motorsport F1 show. He explained that Red Bull's decision to keep Perez wasn't just about his potential to turn things around, but also about maintaining stability within the team and not unsettling Verstappen, who is their clear priority. He's definitely not a threat to Verstappen, and that's going to help Red Bull a lot in trying to stay ahead of Lando Norris in the title fight. But there are actually reasons for Perez to stay. The main reason is the Constructors' Championship, Sutton said. Realistically, if you throw another driver into a Red Bull that clearly has issues, you're throwing someone like Yuki Tsunoda in, who's never really sat in a Red Bull, and Daniel Ricciardo. Do we even know if he's the same driver he was in 2020 anymore after what Norris did to him? But at least with Perez, he knows the team, knows Verstappen, knows what the development path at Red Bull should be in theory. So even if he's not quick, he has the knowledge of it. If you swap them this season, you're gambling on Ricciardo getting closer. He added, "It's a very sensitive time for Verstappen based on everything that's gone on at Red Bull this year. The last thing you want to do is throw in a driver that can challenge him and just unsettle him a little bit more, if he is unsettled." Since joining Red Bull in 2016, Max Verstappen has had 4 different teammates, with Daniel Ricciardo being the only one who managed to outperform him in the Drivers' Championship during the 2016 and 2017 seasons. After that, Verstappen took control and has consistently outpaced teammates like Alex Albon, Pierre Gasly, and now Sergio Perez, who has been his partner since 2021. According to Total Motorsport writer Adam Dickinson, being Verstappen's teammate is arguably the toughest job in Formula One. He questioned whether it's in everyone's best interest for Perez to stay with the team beyond 2024, given the challenges and pressures that come with racing alongside a driver as dominant as Verstappen. "I think it's the hardest job in motorsport," Dickinson said when appearing on the Total Motorsport show. "Perez is still a very good driver, and he's in the top half of the drivers on the grid. But I think when you're alongside Verstappen, unless you're in that top tier of drivers, you are going to be worn down over time, as he has. It's his 3rd season, and I think we're seeing that relentless is starting to take its toll. I don't really know if it's best for anyone that he stays there, but at the same time, we don't see many driver swaps mid-season." And despite all the whispers in the paddock about Perez's future with Red Bull this season and beyond, Verstappen himself has shown unwavering support for his teammate. The 3-time world champion has stated that Perez is doing more than his fair share in contributing to car feedback, even if his results on track have fallen short of expectations lately. "I wouldn't word it like that," the 26-year-old replied when asked by Racing News 365 how difficult it had been effectively operating on his own over recent rounds. "Because at the end of the day, we are teammates, and we always try to give our feedback to the car, and that's also what Checo has been doing. so he's been always fully contributing to that. But of course, we cannot deny that the last few weeks have been a bit difficult. I would say also some were a bit unlucky. In qualifying, for example, in Silverstone, that off then cost you your qualifying. You start in the back, and especially in a race like that, it's very difficult to progress. Taking it a step further, Verstappen also noted that he feels his teammate is pushing himself to the maximum in order to improve. Of course, naturally, also he wants to do better. I know that he's working very hard. It's not that he just takes it for granted or whatever, right? So hopefully here, when the car maybe suits his driving a bit more, everything feels a bit more connected. It can work a bit better for him. In order to further justify his defense of Perez, Verstappen pointed to his own issues with the RB20 and the fact that the car has been riddled with issues all season long. Our car has been a bit tricky at times. We were always chasing balance, and then also as a driver, it's very hard to be consistent because you're always having to deal with different kinds of balance issues, he said. Even for myself, the last few weekends have been very challenging to get the best out of the car. The team knows that, so we tried to get the car in a bit more of an operating window, a bit more predictable. The Dutch world champion reiterated to media several times that he and Checo have regular conversations about improving the car, but not about Checo's future. We just talk about what we can control or influence, and that's the car, Verstappen said. We want to have a faster car. We talk about the balance of the car. We talk about what we need from the car. I think that's always been a strong point of the team. Verstappen also took care to note that, again, he doesn't feel as if this lapse in performance is due to some fault of his teammates. I feel like he's giving everything, and that's the only thing you can do, Verstappen said. Also, to tense up or stress about it, that's not going to help the situation as well. We just work as a team, and everyone is always very committed, and of course everyone wants to help each other to be better. Perez has built a reputation as a strong performer at several of the upcoming race weekend venues, like Azerbaijan and Singapore. Given his status as the 2023 championship runner-up, Red Bull has decided to give him some breathing room, offering him the security of at least the next handful of races to try and turn things around. In an effort to help Perez regain his confidence, Red Bull is reportedly reverting his RB20 to the specifications it had earlier in the season. The mid-season upgrades have made Perez increasingly uncomfortable behind the wheel, so the team is rolling back those changes. This could mean going back to the setup he had at the Chinese Grand Prix, where he secured his most recent podium finish in third place. During the summer break, Red Bull advisor Helmut Marko spoke about Christian Horner's decision to keep Perez in his seat, especially after it seemed highly likely that the team was on the verge of making a change. Sergio Perez will also be in the Red Bull racing car after the summer break because we now have races on the tracks where he was good last year and we are relying on stability. Marko told Speedweek, Perez doesn't have to become faster, but more consistent. And given the alternatives, he is still our best solution. So there you have it. With the 2024 season resuming this weekend, the focus will be on whether Sergio Perez can step up and deliver for his team when it matters most. With Red Bull's backing and Verstappen's support, Checo has a crucial chance to prove himself and solidify his place in the team. But the question is, will he be able to rise to the challenge, or will Red Bull be forced to reconsider? What do you think? Can Perez turn things around? Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with the latest F1 news.